Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Chit FC podcast. Today, we're going to be reviewing the latest games and all the teams in professional football. So, to start off, what did you guys think of the games today in the Premier League?
I mean, we saw Man City against Aston Villa, 1-1 draw. Kind of disappointing for City because I mean they could have been, closer to Arsenal now. Now they're only 1 point ahead, even though Arsenal have a game in hand. Uh, Honestly, what I want to highlight in that game is Kyle Walker. I mean, I don't think he was that good. He's kind of been unimpressive this season. And I think it shows that, I mean, him tucking into the midfield clearly doesn't work. I don't think he has that technical ability like Joao Cancelo. So, I mean, yeah, I would probably highlight him as a major flaw in that team.
Yeah, I guess to reinforce that notion, um, a lot of the same patterns I saw was um, Holland was their only person to feed it to, and what ended up happening is Aston Villa would always put 2 to 3 people on Holland to block him, and he can't, obviously overstrength 3 people. So then it would force De Bruyne and all their offense strikers to take more outside shots, and obviously that didn't hit, and that was kind of seen by when De Bruyne had the free kick and um, the Aston Villa keeper, like he was completely lost. He couldn't even see the ball, and De Bruyne still missed. I get a free kick's hard, but I mean that was a bad miss. And I guess to top on the De Bruyne hate, he played really good, but to be honest, he was looking like pretty thick. He wasn't as fast, and his technical game was on point, but a lot of his athleticism was kind of lacking. Um, Also, we saw a lot of the flaws. So in the Aston Villa game, Aston Villa played a lot more of a defensive formation, and Man City played more offensive formation. And what we saw is Man City, their defense kind of failed. There's a goal in the around the 70-minute mark that was scored by Leon Bailey, and Cancelo was kind of like trolling there. Like he watched Bailey like run past him, and he didn't do anything. And it shows like the Man City defense has a lot of flaws. Like you can't rely on the defense, and the only consistent player that game was probably Stones. And if you're playing an offensive lineup and you're pushing up and you're pressing, then your defense has to be elite. And it just wasn't that game.
I was watching some of the Chelsea West Ham game. I was pretty happy for Ben Chilwell. He just had a ACL injury last season. When he came back from it, he got an assist and a goal. And it was a comeback from Chelsea. Now, toward the end, West Ham did score one more time, but then it was ruled out by VAR, and Chelsea won 2-1. So now they're fifth place. Not bad from Thomas Tuchel, and they generally were consistent this game. There wasn't much
You,
to worry about other than the one
talk,
goal they conceded.
Talking about Chelsea, I mean, the transfer window just closed. They've probably been the busiest team. They spent more than ever. Uh, who do you think was their best signing over the summer?
For me personally, I gotta say Raheem Sterling. I mean, he's been very effective. He's been kind of with Kai Havertz. He's been able to fulfill that finishing gap and to get those goals and that finishing that, as we've seen Liverpool struggle with loss of Sadio Mane.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's also Sterling. I mean, you have a lot of wingers in that team, a lot of creative attacking players like Pulisic, Mount, Havertz, Ziyech, and Hudson-Odoi, but none of those guys are consistent enough. And Sterling is just brings you that consistency every single game. So I mean, he's been pretty effective. I mean, he's scoring a few goals, but he's mostly a quick winger, which is
I,
Chelsea again have a lot of those guys, but he brings consistency into that team.
I mean, at the end of the transfer window, Chelsea spent what, like 88 million on Fofana from Leicester, making him the most expensive center back, more than Virgil, more than the greatest player of all time, Harry Maguire. Um, so I don't know how I feel about this, to be completely honest. I mean, Fofana was mainly injured for all of last season. I think he only played like 7 games. Do you think it's a risky investment spending 88 million on him, even though he may be injury prone?
Yeah, for sure. The guy is not really proven to the extent that we know Van Dijk was in the Premier League, and he's young and injury prone. So early 88 million blown on a guy like him is just is it's kind of bound to fail in a sense. I mean, I'm not saying that he's not going to do well. It's just spending 88 million on a center back like that. That was a bad decision.
Yeah, but in hindsight, I don't think it was horrible because for the next couple of years, we're not going to see that many free agents pop up. So, I mean, they can spend this much and let him go because, I mean, presently constructed without him, they have a lot of depth. They have, obviously a very good team. So I think it's a, mistake nonetheless, but not a horrible one.
I mean, they also have a pretty solid back line now. They signed Cucurella from Brighton. They signed Koulibaly. They still have Thiago Silva. They have Ben Chilwell. I mean, I think Chelsea, their defense is strong. I don't know about their midfield though. Kante has been having like some fitness issues. They were lacking a striker. They now have Aubameyang, but he's still not the highest profile. But I think he'll get the job done. He'll do what Tuchel wants him to do. He'll press. He'll score a couple of goals, but nothing crazy. How do you think Chelsea lines up across the other Premier League teams?
I gotta say, I mean, when it comes to Chelsea, they're very like sometimes. I mean, we obviously had that surprise a couple of some years ago when they won the Champions League, but I think they're still following that pattern where they can sometimes be a team that's competing with Man City and Arsenal, but sometimes I mean they're a team that like are in the depths with obviously like the seventh and eighth seed.
Chelsea on paper look probably the same as Arsenal, but again, I just think things fell apart for them last season. They were going pretty good until Christmas, and then the Lukaku thing happened, and that became a really big deal. If they can avoid stuff like that this season, and they've had somewhat slow start, but if they can avoid stuff like that, I think they can challenge top three for sure.
I mean, talking about transfers, there's been a lot, right? Who do you think is the best transfer of the summer?
I guess for me, the Lewandowski was signing was very good for Barcelona. It makes them a top tier team back to where they were, and they won 3-0 today. So I think that's kind of showing, their finishing that Lewandowski provided, especially since um, they haven't had too many star players like Ronaldo or since Messi.
Yeah, I'd go with Holland because he costs less than Lewandowski and he's a lot younger. So a good long-term impact on City. But not just that, last season City, I mean, they still won the Premier League, but they were really lacking a striker, and they got away without it in the Premier League. They couldn't do that in the Champions League. So just having a striker in moments like that in the UCL, it's going to help them a lot. It's going to make them a big UCL contender this year.
I mean, I think Holland was by far the best summer signing. I mean, he was pretty inexpensive for how much he's worth. I mean, he already has like 10 goals in 5 games in the Premier League. And I don't think you really ever see people adapt to the Premier League that quickly like he has. It usually takes, top players, especially him who's injury prone, to adapt to such a physical game in England. And I mean, he's hit the ground running. So I mean, he clearly has the most value for how much he was bought for. So yeah, I think Holland by far. But talking about the Champions League, how do you guys think teams are going to do in the Champions League? Who's going to win?
I mean, I guess pretty clearly, like presently constructed, Man City does have the best team. Um, Obviously, we do have like some dark horses that could pop up. Like we said earlier, Chelsea. I expect Liverpool to move up the standings, and Arsenal, with their current streak, could go. all the way to the moon. But I mean, if we're looking at odds here, Man City is definitely the highest.
Arsenal's not in the Champions League.
Oh yeah,
Wait,
I
what
mean
the? Wait, I thought you.
they finished
Oh,
fifth last season because
No, they finished
Tottenham
fifth.
are in it.
They bottled it. They were
Yeah,
fourth with
late
like
last
two
season
games left.
they make it.
wait, I thought you said the Premier League. Wait,
No,
champ.
no, the
Wait,
Champions League.
okay, wait. Okay, we're cutting this.
All right,
Roham, go ahead. Wait, okay. Repeat your question, and we'll start from there.
talking about the Champions League, how do you think teams are going to fare in the Champions League? Who do you predict is going to win?
Okay.
I think for the Champions League, I guess Roham, if you can go first.
Yeah, your screen just cut out for a minute. That's why I was a little
You want me
surprised.
to do it again?
Yeah, yeah. Just do it
Okay.
again.
Yeah. No, my. Oh.
Talking about the Champions League, who do you guys predict is going to win it? Obviously, there's a lot of teams this year. I don't think there's one clear favorite, but who's going to win?
I'm thinking it's probably between City and PSG. PSG's last year they weren't great in either their own league or in the UCL, but it takes time to put in so many high quality players like that and have them adapt. So I think they've built a good chemistry this year. They don't have a coach who's that much better, so I think that'll be a slight disadvantage. But the other team would probably be Manchester City because they have an actual striker now who can finish in games like the one against Real Madrid in the semifinal, where Grealish is struggling to make the finish and Mendy's making a goal line clearance. I would say those teams are probably the favorites.
For me, obviously, Man City is up there, but I think a surprising dark horse that we'll see again this year is Bayern, especially with Jamal Musiala, the young star in the Bundesliga, especially with him rising, getting better, filling that Lewandowski role. I mean, uh, the Bayern Munich team constructed right now has a pretty young team and also some veteran leadership with Thomas Muller, and we've seen like Sadio Mane really thriving in that new spot. And honestly, I think he's a better fit than Lewandowski. You know, he provides some of that more team chemistry, more of that winning mentality, that more winning mentality in terms of winning the Champions League. That something that Lewandowski didn't bring.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with those shouts. I think Sadio Mane provides a little more fluidity in that team, but I'd have to go with Real Madrid again. Doing the double. I just think they have that winning mentality. They have that, champion DNA, and in their from owners to the players. I think teams like when you see Man City or even Manchester United, they just don't have that winning pedigree, uh, in their team or in their club at all. Benzema's clearly been the best player in the world. I don't think he's going to slow down. I mean, Real Madrid's still on top of La Liga. Vinicius has only gotten better. Rodrigo has only gotten better. And although Real Madrid lost Casemiro this summer, I mean, they still have plenty of options. They have Valverde, Jumemi. They still have Cruz and Modric, who, I mean, they still hold the midfield for Real Madrid. So yeah, I'd have to go with Real Madrid or Man City. Obviously, having Holland now, they have that that pure number nine who can score the goals that they were lacking last year. So yeah, I'd go with Real Madrid.
I guess to continue this talk of the Champions League and international football, what do you guys think was the worst summer signing on last over the summer?
I'll go
So
with
I'm gonna go with a bold take right here. I think Darwin Nunes is gonna flop. I think he's gonna be the next Lukaku. I mean, we obviously Liverpool is struggling right now. They only have two wins in 6 games. That's not great. They don't have that many goals. Oh, they do have 15, but they're still 5 behind Man City. And if you see their game today against Everton, you can see that they're lacking that Sadio Mane finishing, right? Salah, his form has dropped off completely. And I don't think their team is playing that Klopp style that we're used to seeing, right? I think Darwin Nunes, he isn't refined yet. So uh, I don't see him being worth the money he was spent for because I think he was million or something like that. So yeah, I'll go with Darwin Nunes as the flop of the year.
I'm going to go with Anthony because this is very similar to what we saw last season with Sancho. They signed a young, flashy winger from an easier league for 100 million, and he comes into a harder league with faster players and more physical football. What do you think happens, right? Anthony is probably going to be the same thing as Jadon Sancho, but I mean, long term, I don't think it's going to be that bad because we've seen players like this come from tougher leagues in the Premier League and then adapt. Um, so probably within 3 years you can assess that a little more. But I think this first season he's going to be Sancho 2.0.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Roham. Um, Definitely, we're gonna have a Sancho 2.0. I feel like he's gonna make that next step, into superstardom.
Do you think Anthony was the worst?
Yeah.
In terms of how much they paid for him and what the expectation is and what reality probably will be.
I mean, you see, like, although they struggled in the beginning, I mean, they're on a three-game win streak. They beat Liverpool. They have Arsenal tomorrow. I mean, I think Anthony, I think he complements Rashford and Sancho. They all kind of have this a similar style. I think Anthony will probably replace Ilanga, and probably make Ronaldo's spot a lot harder on the team. So, talking about that, I mean, there's been a huge controversy with Ronaldo in Manchester United. What do you think is going to happen with him?
I think he's gonna retire, right? He's definitely moving into the older years. He's gonna be 38 soon, and I mean, he's accomplished his career. Maybe he, goes to like back to Real Madrid or something like that to get that one last Champions League cup. But I mean, there doesn't seem to be that much more motivation for him.
I think that judging from what we've seen in the preseason, he really doesn't want to be in United, playing with players who are not as good, and that entire United locker room doesn't have the mindset to really challenge in the Premier League, and he realizes that. But the issue is, United knew this, and they wanted to get rid of him. It was clear, but they couldn't find a club that would take him for the money that he wanted. So I think if United do well within the first half of the season, he's probably going to stay. But if they don't, he's going to do a big brain move and move to a club who are looking like they're winning the Champions League because that's probably what he wants to do. Either win another Champions League or score so many more goals in the UCL to the point where his record of goals in the UCL becomes pretty much impossible to beat for anyone else. There's two goals really that he can realistically achieve in the last 2 or 3 years of his career, his club career at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's in a tough spot right now because, I mean, Ten Hag was quite adamant that Ronaldo should stay, but yeah, I mean, I think it's clear that Ronaldo wanted to leave during the summer. But I just can't see a team that would take him. I mean, he's 37 on 38 now. You kind of have to shape your team around him, your style of play around him. He's not going to press. He's not really going to listen to the manager. So I think it's tough. But talking about that, I mean, do you guys still consider Ronaldo to be a world class player?
I mean, to be honest, what you said was utterly disrespectful, saying that he doesn't have a spot on teams and that, you have to adjust your team around him. Surely, I mean, you would have to adjust your team, but I mean, he can go to a garbage team and make them a definite top seven contender, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
but
he
like
can
like
go
think
to,
about it. He's
I
38
can
though.
think of many teams where he goes to where he
Where?
immediately, like that, makes him better.
Where?
He could go to Liverpool. Um,
Liverpool. That
yeah.
Liverpool, their whole style is pressing. You're not going to get Ronaldo to press. What they need fluidity. That's why Darwin Núñez was their only true number nine in the last few years. I mean, Sadio Mane is a left winger. Firmino is like a center forward. He kind of plays at number 10. And Salah is a right winger. So they don't really play with an out and out striker. And I think honestly, Ronaldo, I think he's still world class, right? He can get goals still. I mean, we clearly saw last year he was by far Man United's best player. He was third in the Premier League in terms of goals. He had 18 goals. I mean, he was really clutch. I understand all of that, and I just think you'd have to try and find a team with a win now mentality, or a team that's willing to sacrifice some of their future to win the Champions League right now. But honestly, I don't see a team in where their philosophy works like that.
Not even Arsenal.
Arsenal's not going to sign him.
I mean, Jesus is looking pretty weird.
I mean, Arsenal, they've won 5 out of 5 games, so they're
Yeah,
doing
I
very
mean,
well
you're right
now.
about that. They have no motivation.
And they're
That's
building for the future. They have one of the youngest teams in the Premier League. I don't think they're going to add a 38-year-old striker.
is rough because the other factor is that he probably wants to be paid the same amount he's being paid in United. They're probably
Yeah.
not going to pay him as much because he can't play the number of games every season that he used to. He used to score 40 goals a season. He probably gets like he still gets like 20 ish. That's still not bad, but again, it's just not worth the money. And a lot of teams, again, as you said, are looking toward younger players, more long-term projects. He's not going to be that. So it's not that he wouldn't add value to the team. It's just that there aren't a whole lot of teams in Europe that are willing to pay the money to get what he's offering them.
Talking about Ronaldo, it's going to be probably his last World Cup coming up in November. What are your predictions for that?
Obviously, you do have the top contenders like France, Brazil, Argentina. Um, but I think for me, the top contender would probably be France, right? In the Euros, they lost to Switzerland in a disappointing upset. And I think when it comes to the France national team, I mean, they're stacked with talent, and a lot of their talent on their team in clubs, they, play for the money. But we've seen like Pogba, like on Man U, he's not that good. When he goes on the national team, I mean, he goes crazy, right? He's out of his mind. So France definitely is my favorite.
I would go with Brazil, and the reason I go with Brazil is because they have a lot of players who generally don't play well for their clubs, but do really well for their nations, like Coutinho or Neymar. And as Mustafa said, one of the things about a World Cup is that it motivates players who have a lot of talent but aren't very disciplined, like Neymar, to actually play really well. So that's why I'm going with Brazil. But again, it's very difficult to predict because it's a tournament where almost anything can happen. It's not really like a long term league where you can say this team is like fundamentally better than the other one, and so it's a bit tough like that. But Germany, Brazil, Argentina, France, those are probably going to be the top four, and I'd probably just predict Brazil to be the winner.
I mean, yeah, those were my two favorites. I think France and Brazil. I think they have the strongest squads. I think Neymar. I think this is kind of his last push in terms of the national team. If he really wants to cement himself as like the greatest or one of the greatest Brazilian players ever, I think he kind of has to have a World Cup win or at least get to a final or get far. I think back in 2014, that back injury, caused the 7-1 loss to Germany. I think he's gonna be really motivated. We saw him in PSG. I think today or yesterday they played. I mean, in League One, he has been fantastic. I think he has like 6 goals and 5 assists already. Uh, he's my pick for the best player in the World Cup. So yeah, I think France or Brazil is gonna win. But one thing I have to say is I think the biggest disappointment is going to be Belgium. They have their kind of their golden age has fleeted away. Lukaku isn't that player anymore. Hazard is just a massive disappointment. He can barely keep in shape. Yeah, so their time's kind of passed. So yeah, Belgium's my biggest disappointment.
I mean that's outrageous, right? You should take that back. You should honestly, you owe the Belgian national team an apology. I mean, the reason why you're saying Lukaku is washed, but I mean, you said that before. Like the Chelsea, like they're not very, like Lukaku being the main striker is not something that fits into Chelsea's system. That's why he was, not as good. It's not because he was garbage or because he lacked the skill or because he's, washed. It's because he didn't fit in the system, right?
I mean, if
And
you watch the games, he wasn't finishing. He had chances and he couldn't finish. He can barely even get into the squad. Uh, you see, he was very dysfunctional with the team. Uh, he kind of went there for money and then instantly
I
wanted to
mean,
go back to Italy.
blasphemous, just blasphemous, right? I mean, they still have De Bruyne, who's leading the best Premier League team in the last couple of years. I mean, you're saying De Bruyne, Lukaku. I mean, that's an unstoppable duo. We've seen them do good before, and we'll see it again. They still have a very good roster, and I think with winning the World Cup comes a lot of experience, right? Being in those high pressure moments, and I think Lukaku, De Bruyne and there are other players like Hazard. They have that opportunity. They have that drive, and they will carry, especially De Bruyne. He will carry that winning mentality, that discipline, into the World Cup and that experience.
I mean,
I mean,
Belgium's
no, I mean that's
consistently
just
failed
outrageous, right? That's
Belgium's consistently
outrageous.
failed in the big stages. They've never gone far into a World Cup or into a Euros even. I mean, they've consistently disappointed on the big stages. Everybody always picks them to do well, and they were number one ranked for a couple of years, but they've never lived up to that hype.
I would
I mean, I think this is a year though. You're wrong.
I
I
mean, that's
mean,
every year.
if
Everybody
if
says
there
that
was
every
gonna be
year.
a year, it would have been 2018 because that's when the players were in their primes and when Hazard was untouchable. Now Hazard is, you don't even need to say anything. Hazard is just Hazard now. Um, yeah, I mean they have experience, but their age is gonna put a toll on them because they did not do great this summer in the tournament. Whatever the thing was that they did this summer,
Yeah, the Nations
in
League.
the Nations League, right? Um, yeah, I mean, here's the issue: the manager is almost unwilling to put younger players out there because they still have this false belief that the golden generation is still there when all the players in the golden generation are in their 30s. You're not going to play a 34-year-old Witsel at CDM and think you're going to make it through the entire World Cup, right? So they do have experience, but they need to use their younger players like Tielemans and a few other ones so that they can kind of just get some physicality and some athleticism into the team because it's too slow what we saw in the Nations League.
I mean, talking about disappointments, another team I think that's not going to perform as well as they expect is the United States. They're in a pretty tough group with Wales, England, and Iran. I think them and Wales is pretty competitive. I think that the American team they're just a little too inexperienced. You see, Pulisic hasn't been in great form. Same with Weston McKennie and Sergio Dest. I just think they're a little too young, too inexperienced. They haven't. This is kind of their first time on a really, really big stage since the times of like Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey. So I don't think this is the World Cup this year, but maybe next year, if or next time when they progress. But I don't see them doing that well this World Cup.
um, I mean, with the forward momentum the USA has, especially with doing so well in CONCACAF, I think um, they definitely can beat and win their group, beat England, Iran, and Wales. But it really comes down to, I think, the coaching, right? Because they do have that forward momentum. They have some experience with Pulisic, and I mean, they don't have a horrible team, right? They have a nice young team, physical, fast, athletic, right? And I think it comes down to the management, how the management use them, how they put them in the slots, right? Formation they run that will fit their best players like Pulisic. And I mean, I think they do have a chance to make it out the group. They do have a chance to make it in the semifinals.
I'm gonna argue.
Um,
Semifinals.
yeah,
You mean?
Do you think they're gonna get through the round of 16 and the quarterfinals?
they could, very possible.
Bro, you're delusional.
Okay, I'll argue against the U.S. Here's the reason why. Their group is kind of difficult. The U.S. right now, the average team of that roster is 24 years old. They missed 2018, meaning none of the players, other than Yedlin if he gets called up, none of the players in the U.S. roster have had World Cup experience or any similar experience in a difficult international competition like this. Wales have played in the Euros. England are England. They're really good, right? They're a step above everyone in that group. And Iran, they've played in 2014, 2018, and now they're in 2022. So all those Iranian players have experience playing in the World Cup, and they're the number one ranked team in Asia. So when you look at it on paper, it doesn't look great for the U.S., especially when you take a look at their manager, who, just like the players, doesn't have the experience in any, even club football. He doesn't have any experience that is makes him look credible enough to be able to lead the U.S. in the toughest international competition. So they definitely have a chance, but I wouldn't to make it out of the group. But I would not say they have a great chance of getting to the semifinals.
I mean, talking about the groups, right? I think my group to watch for this World Cup is Group F. We have Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. I mean, we saw what Croatia did last World Cup. They got to the finals miraculously. Belgium's obviously, they're hit or miss, but they're going to perform well, especially in the group stages. And Morocco, with Hakimi and Ziyech, I mean, they have a good team. But I think Canada is going to be the surprise of the World Cup. I could see them going pretty far, like reaching the quarterfinals. They have a really strong team. They have Jonathan David. Of course, they have Alfonso Davies, who's probably going to be on a mission
My
after,
favorite team
yeah,
and my
but they're
favorite
going to
player.
he's going to be on a mission. He's kind of been injured, in his personal life as well, with breaking up with his girlfriend and everything. I mean, he's just going to go on demon mode right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have to reinforce that notion. Like, I feel so I guess one thing to question you about is you said the USA team, they're not going to do good because they're young and experienced. I mean, same thing with Canada though, right?
Yeah, I mean, Canada is inexperienced in that, but I think they just have a lot more momentum. I mean, they topped the CONCACAF group. They, I think they went nearly undefeated, or I think they went undefeated. They have a lot more momentum than America right now. Their manager is great. I think I'm a really big fan of him. I think he's instilling a lot of confidence into this team. They play as a team, and I think they play. They have that team spirit that I think America's lacking right now. I think the United States is kind of a little dysfunctional. I think Pulisic hasn't really found his feet yet. Same with Weston McKennie, and they're supposed to lead the team. Alfonso Davies, though, I think he has a lot more big game experience than anybody on the American team playing in Bayern. And Jonathan David, I mean, let's not forget, he won the French league with Lille a couple years ago. And I mean, he played well against Chelsea in the Champions League that year that they won. So I think Canada, they just have a lot more momentum than America right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if they pull some forms of upsets.
Um, I mean, I do think Canada's doing good, but they can pull off an upset, I guess, against my Belgium. But I think when it does come down to it, Belgium definitely does edge them out with experience, with talent, with decision making, especially in those crunch time.
How
Group
about
F is
Croatia? I mean, they got to the finals last time, but their team's a lot older. I don't think obviously that they're not going to do as good. But what do you guys think about that group and how Croatia does?
well,
Washed.
it's an interesting group because okay, Belgium kind of have a point to prove when it comes to this World Cup because they had their golden generation prime time last World Cup and then they failed. So they're kind of trying to make up for it this time. Canada again, a lot of momentum. Morocco, they play they play good soccer. Like they're entertaining to watch. When you watch that game against Iran last World Cup, they were open. Like they were the Iranians was just defend. They were like 9 players behind the ball. Morocco were actually attacking. They were doing things. They have creative players like Ziyech and Croatia. Again, like that team is was very good last World Cup. Modric is unreal, right? So overall, it's just a team where you look at every team and say it's a group where you look at every team and you say there's something about every team that's special, and it's just an entertaining group overall.
Who do you think is going to be the best player in the World Cup?
For me, the best player. I mean, it's very hard to decide, but hmm, I guess I'll let you go first, Rohan.
All right, I'll go with Mbappe. I think he'll do well, but there's also the chance that Benzema does well. either one because their games complement each other well, and France is just a good team. When you're in a better team, you're gonna play well because your players are gonna play better passes to you, better understanding. I really don't see any other exceptional players in other teams. I mean, you could say Mane, but Senegal don't have the greatest attacking forwards. You could say Harry Kane. Uh, you could even say Messi, but again, he's not been playing well for Argentina or for PSG the last year. So the obvious answer would be Mbappe.
I mean, I would personally go with either Benzema or Neymar. I mean, again, this is Neymar's kind of last chance to really cement himself in the world of football and the world of soccer. I mean, if you think about his career as a whole, I mean, obviously has been fantastic, but I think he could have accomplished a lot more. I mean, in his early days at Barcelona, people were calling him, the third best player after Ronaldo and Messi, and he was supposed to like hold that torch after them. But we saw that Ronaldo and Messi's kind of outlasted Neymar, which is kind of weird because Neymar is like considerably younger. But I think this is going to be his point to prove. Brazil's had the best team they've had in a while. Obviously, Vinicius Jr. has improved a lot. They have Rodrigo, they have Paqueta, they have Marquinhos. So yeah, I'd go with Neymar, and then obviously Benzema, the Ballon d'Or winner, probably. He just has everybody to facilitate for him. So he'd probably be top scorer, but I would see Neymar being the best player.
All right. Personally, I think for Portugal, I think Ronaldo's definitely going to be a top player. Looking at their group, obviously South Korea and Ghana, uh, I mean, absolute garbage. Uruguay can give some competition, but just comparing rosters, Portugal definitely has better players. Um, and I think, because of that, Ronaldo will be able to capitalize off these bad teams, able to get that recognition that he had. And I think he will be, he's got something to prove, right? For the last couple of years under Juventus, under Manchester United, he hasn't been that good, right? But we've always seen when it comes down to his national team, he always performs. His team doesn't always perform, but he always performs.
I mean, yeah, I could agree with that. Portugal has, player for player, one of the most talented teams. They have Bernardo Silva, Joao Felix, Bruno Fernandes, although he's kind of been out of form the last couple of years. They have that guy from AC Milan. Um, I mean, yeah, they have a really talented team. I kind of I think it just boils down to how far they get. If they reach far, then I could see Ronaldo winning. But if they get kicked out early, they've kind of been inconsistent, or they haven't reached their potential. I think last World Cup they lost against Uruguay in the round of 16. Although Ronaldo played fantastic in the group stage, I remember that hat trick he scored against Spain in the group stage of the first game. I mean, I think I think he still has a point to prove. It's his last World Cup, his last chance to win a World Cup, and I think if he does win it, he'd probably be the greatest player of all time. Like fully, like no debate.
Yeah, because the only other one would be Messi, but he hasn't won a World Cup either. So it's funny because it's both their last World Cups. Likely, like I don't think Messi is gonna play in one at 38, especially with the drop in form this year. So it'll really be a point to prove, just not just Ronaldo, but also Messi in Argentina. Because
Um,
if Messi retires and Argentina have one World Cup out of him, that'd be a big disappointment for him.
I mean, talking about Ronaldo Messi, I mean, it's obviously an age-old debate, but who do you think is the greatest player of all time?
Rohan, you go first.
That's tough. Man, there are so many good players. Just go with Maradona. He's similar
Oh.
playing style to Messi, right? Left-footed, short dude, dribbles. I mean, if he wasn't on stuff, he could he could probably be a lot better. But still, I think in terms of like pure talent, probably just him. But uh, there are other factors you can analyze. I mean, I just did talent, but obviously doesn't mean he's got he reached his full potential.
So, I mean, you went with Maradona. I mean, when it does come down to it, I mean, he's incomparable to Messi and Ronaldo. Personal accolades, team accolades. I mean, that's not even a debate worth having. I mean, it's a good mention. You know, obviously we have to give the legend some respect, rest in peace. But um, he's just he I'm sorry, but he just wasn't as good. But for me, I gotta say Ronaldo, right? Messi, he's good, right? He's good. But Ronaldo, he has I mean, we saw Messi like with his goals, he just didn't have that many. He wasn't as involved. He took a back seat in PSG. Is for Neymar and Mbappe. And although, you know, that gave them more success, like that does reflect on his individual stats, which at the end of the day do matter, right? And Ronaldo, he has more personal accolades. He's won more Champions League cups, and I think when it does come to that dog mentality that that a lot of like the soccer players like Holland have, Ronaldo definitely does top them out. You know, he wants to win. He wants to lead his team to winning the World Cup. Messi, you know, it's there, but like at the end of the day, he's just there to get his bag and get out, right? He's n- he has regressed significantly since the prime Messi. Ronaldo has not, right? He's always performed no matter any circumstances.
I
Um,
mean, yeah, I mean, I do think Ronaldo's the greatest player of all time. I mean, Messi's obviously great. I think these last few years kind of been a very large regression. He's kind of fell off a lot more than Ronaldo did. I mean, I think Ronaldo's longevity speaks for itself, right? He's been at the top for around 18 years. Messi, I mean, he is more creative, but I think you see that he's kind of just been used to that Barcelona system right when he joined PSG, which has a lot better team than that Barcelona team. When he's not the main guy, you see like his goals aren't there. He isn't as involved in the play. He basically walks for the entire game. He seems just very disinterested right now. I think Ronaldo, I mean, just all time, he's probably the best goal scorer of all time. He has 815 goals. That's number one. I think people forget prime Ronaldo, like especially back in the United days. I mean, he was hitting free kicks like nothing. His dribbling was insane. He has that more flashy flair to him. I think he's just a more complete player. I think his playmaking is underrated. If you look, especially at Juventus and that United days, I mean, he can get he can create chances. It's just he didn't have the players around him to convert. And yeah, I mean he's the most complete player if you look at it physically. I mean he can jump. He's the greatest header of the ball ever. He can run fast. He's strong. Uh, he has that mentality as you said. He's he's proven it in different leagues, right? I don't think Messi's proven it anywhere except for Spain, and even on the international level. I mean, he did great in the Copa America until the finals, where he did absolutely nothing, and he was carried by Di Maria and his teammates. Yeah, I think Ronaldo, with the accolades he has, the Champions Leagues, just the amount of clutch goals, he's probably the most clutch player ever. I'd go with Ronaldo.
um, I mean, obviously I said Ronaldo, but you did, you know, sprinkle some disrespect on Messi that's undeserved, right? You said
How?
you say he's walking around, he's not involved in the goals. I mean, I said he took a backseat, right? That means he went more for the defensive side. He went more for going assists, you know, feeding them the ball. And I
Yeah.
mean, that does mean he's not trying. That doesn't mean he's doing garbage and he's not even involved in the.
I didn't
And
say
no,
he's
no,
doing
no, you
garbage.
said this. You said
No,
he's
no,
not
no, no, no.
involved in the play. I
No,
mean,
not as
he's
much.
definitely
Yeah, he's
involved in the play.
no, but
I mean,
you can
I
clearly
mean, when
see
you no, no, no,
last year.
I'm talking. When you have two other great players, you can't be as involved. But I mean, he is if we put this Messi back on Barcelona, he would be averaging maybe like like 3 goals less. I mean, he isn't what not involved. I mean, come
No,
on.
I didn't mean like you can see he's not involved in the play as much as he was, right? Everything used to run
I
through
mean,
him.
that's a given
Now
though.
now in his
When you have
yeah,
that
but
much
now in
talent
his
on
system,
PSG, I mean, you can be involved in every single play. I mean, he's not the main guy.
yeah,
How? What do you expect? He's not
yeah, but
Jesus.
Yeah, bro, that's not what I'm talking about though. Like you can see, he doesn't track back at all. Especially when you saw the Champions League games, especially in Real Madrid when they played against each other and they bottled that lead. I mean, Mbappe carried that team heavily. Messi just seemed so disinterested. He was losing the ball, which is something you never really see Messi do, right? But that season PSG, I mean, you can clearly see the regression. You can see old age come in. He's not as active on the field anymore. I mean, once he gets the ball, he'll make some clever passes, but he doesn't carry the ball as much. He doesn't progress the game as much as he used to. So that's what I was trying to say.
All right, that's respectable.
We talked about predictions. Looking across Europe, how do you think who's going to win each league?
Obviously we can start with let's start with the Bundesliga. I think, um, definitely Borussia Dortmund uh can win the league because Bayern did actually no,
Well,
but
that's a
Bayern,
delusional
no,
statement.
no, no, Bayern. But I mean, Bayern's definitely gonna win, right? Sadio Mane filled the hole. Their young players get better. They still have that veteran leadership. I mean, when it comes to like when you have a team, you always want to mix young talent with veteran leadership. And Bayern, they have exactly that, right? They have Jamal Musiala, Alfonso Davies, and then also they got Thomas Muller, on the older side, and then and then some of those primetime players like Sadio Mane. So Bayern, for me, Bayern, Dortmund. Um, I don't know. No one cares about the other teams. Probably like Union Berlin and I don't know Eintracht Frankfurt.
Yeah, I'll talk about the Bundesliga. There's almost no question that it's probably going to be Bayern again. Even though you probably are not getting as many goals as you were last season with Lewandowski, the fact that Mane can press is going to free up a lot of the other forwards, so they're probably going to get more goals. Musiala, his main attribute is dribbling, but he can still contribute a few more goals in that team. And we've seen Muller. I think Muller is probably going to have his best season of his career because this is kind of similar to what we saw with Benzema and Ronaldo. When Ronaldo left Madrid, Benzema became incredible, right? Like he's been for the last 4 years. That's because Benzema spent 8 or 9 years in Madrid facilitating Ronaldo, making sure Ronaldo can score 50 goals a season. Muller's been doing the same thing for Lewandowski since Lewandowski came to Bayern 8 or 9 years ago. So Muller's going to have that Benzema moment. I think he's going to just do fantastic. Uh,
I mean,
yeah.
I would kind of disagree with that, only because Muller isn't what Benzema was. Benzema was a striker who was facilitating for a winger. Muller plays kind of more of as a number 10. He's more of a facilitator than a goal scorer, but I do agree he's going to do fantastic. I mean, obviously Bayern's going to win. They had some defensive problems last year, but I think the Ligt signing was very smart, and it's consistent with that German efficiency, and Delict obviously has that winner's mentality. I think Dortmund will finish second. They lost Holland. They did sign a couple new young players. I don't feel like they're going to be challenging Bayern at all, especially because Dortmund seems to be more of a business in terms of they kind of foster young talents and then sell them off for insane transfer sizes. So yeah, I'll go with that. I think RB Leipzig would probably finish third. They have Werner back, who was phenomenal with them, but kind of didn't do that well with Chelsea. And then yeah, the rest I have Leverkusen and Union Berlin. But going to Serie A, I think that's one of the most competitive leagues that's probably going to fly under the radar. I mean, you have Juventus who are back. They have Pogba, they have Di Maria, they signed Paredes from PSG, and obviously they have Vlahovic, who is like a Holland 2.0. So I could see Juve challenging Inter for the title that year.
Yeah, I guess I would say for me I'll go Juve, Inter, Milan, Roma, and Atalanta. Yeah, like you said, Juventus had some good signings with Pogba, and then Angel Di, and they have like plenty of other veteran talent like Angel Di Maria, and then like you said, Vlahovic, definitely very underrated. What's your take on that, Yusuf?
I mean, I would agree. Juventus, I think they have lost Delict, so they probably have some defensive struggles this year. But I mean, I think they really bolstered their attacking options with Vlahovic. They have Pogba now, who they probably needed when Ronaldo was there. You know, some form of a midfield who could facilitate. And I think Di Maria, as well, a creative player, and Paredes, who's a holding midfielder who can stabilize the defense. I would agree. I think Juve have a chance to win it, but I have them at second. I think Inter, especially with Lukaku back, I mean, he was terrible for Chelsea, but we saw what he did with Lautaro Martinez the year before. I mean, Lukaku was probably the second best player when he was in Italy behind Ronaldo. So yeah, I mean, I have Inter, Juve, then AC Milan, then Roma. I think the Tammy Abraham signing was just a masterclass from Jose Mourinho. I think we see that Chelsea is already struggling finding a striker. I think they're gonna sincerely regret selling Abraham. And yeah, I mean, Dybala is now in Roma as well, so I see Roma finishing fourth. And then I have Atlanta. I think Zapata is just, I think he's underrated. I think they have a good team with a good system. So yeah, that's my top five.
So this is probably the most entertaining league, even though it may not be, they may not consist of the best teams in Europe. I would go with Milan top because they 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 were first last season, and they have a good balance of young players like Rafael Lau and older guys like Ibrahimovic, even though he's not going to play as many games. With second place, I will go with Roma. I think what Mourinho has been doing there for the last year has been incredible. He's kind of building that team from ground up, and the Dybala signing was really clever. Overall, that team just looks good. Plus, Tammy Abraham as well. For third place, I'm going to go with Inter, and then fourth place going to go with Juventus. I know that's somewhat disrespectful to Juventus, but I think they've brought on a lot of like new players in, and it's going to take a while to integrate those guys into the team. Like Di Maria is pretty good, and Pogba is not bad, but Pogba just had a meniscus injury, so I don't think he'll be the Pogba that he used to be. And then that leaves probably um, Napoli fifth place.
Yeah, we can move to the French league, League One. I mean, obviously, I think PSG is gonna win. Uh, Although they haven't performed that well recently in terms of last year and the year before, I just think their team's too stacked for them not to win. I have Marseille two, Lyon three, and Rennes four, and then Monaco five.
For me, I think there will be an upset. I think with Mercy, they definitely have a younger team, and they definitely have a younger team, so they can maybe pull off a miracle like Losk did a couple of years ago. Um, so I'll go Marseille 1, PSG 2, Lens 3, and then Montpellier 5.
Okay, that's similar to the
And then
boat.
Leon 4,
Leon four.
Montpellier 4, Leon 5, Montpellier 4.
Okay,
You have
that's
Monaco out of the top five?
Yeah.
Dang.
okay. I think that PSG not being one is the more bold prediction there, because PSG. I mean, I understand they lost a few years ago, but man, I just can't see how they're gonna lose it again. Um, but yeah, I'd have to go PSG one. I mean, this league is Farmers League, so it doesn't really matter that much. I'm gonna go with Marseille, Lyon, Lyon third, right? And then let's just pick out a random club here. Uh, Nice, and then Lille, fifth.
I mean, we can move to La Liga now. I think that's going to be a great league
Mm-hmm.
to watch this season. But I have Real going back to back champions. I think they're by far the best team. I have Barcelona second. They just have a lot of new players. I don't think they have enough time to mesh and form that team chemistry that Real Madrid has for the last few years. So I have Barca second. I'd have Atleti number three, but I don't think they're going to perform that well. It's going to probably be a very disappointing season. I mean, that whole thing with having to sub off Griezmann, after 60 minutes, or else they have to pay Barca 40 million. I mean, that's just crazy. And I have Villarreal number four, Sevilla number five, and I think Betis could still challenge Villarreal and Sevilla. I think Villarreal is going to be a really surprising team. We saw what they almost did to Liverpool. They almost got that miraculous comeback and that upset. So, yeah, just Real Madrid easily going to top the group. Karim Benzema, best player in the world right now. Vinicius Jr., one of the greatest youngsters right now. So, yeah.
For me, I'll go probably Barcelona, Real Madrid, um, Athletic, Villarreal, and then Atletico Madrid. I think Barcelona will edge out Real Madrid. The Lewandowski signing was very helpful with them. They did need some finishing, and I think especially with Memphis and Robert Lewandowski at the top, that's definitely like a power play. I mean, we saw what Memphis Depay did in the Euros. He definitely was one of the best players in that who played in the Euros. Um, yeah, and then I think obviously Barcelona. I mean, you can't put them outside the top two, or you can't Real Madrid. You can't put them outside the top two. So I'd go. And then Villarreal, younger team. They are one of those underdog teams, right? They upset Bayern. They almost beat Liverpool, like you said, and then Athletic Club and Atletico Madrid. They're both solid teams, solid rosters. Um, that you can't keep out of the top standings.
I would go with Madrid first again, even though I think Barcelona on paper look better than Madrid. Real Madrid just have something about the team chemistry that helped them win all these games last season and somehow win the Champions League and La Liga. And Madrid, even though what we've seen the last like 3 games in La Liga is that they don't necessarily win by a ton of goals. They kind of draw, and then at the 60th to 90th minute, somewhere in there, they score the winner, and then they defend. That's probably not. You wouldn't think of that as the most consistent, but if they can do that all season, and they in a way did that all season last year, then they're going to be able to win it again. Barcelona second. I think that third will be. What team was I thinking of? I don't think it was going to be Atletico Madrid. I think Atletico will be fourth. What you have right now in Atletico is kind of a mess. They've got a decent start to the season, but when you have Alvaro Morata as your starting striker, you've got other issues. You probably have a lot of issues in your club. I think Sevilla, even though they had a tough start, I mean, Lopetegui is doing his best. I don't think he's been the issue. They've kind of gotten unlucky, so I would put them third, and then fifth I would go with Celta Vigo.
I guess to finish off this podcast, probably with the most anticipated league this season, the Premier League. I mean, I think my predictions are a little controversial. I have City winning probably by a lot, but I actually have Arsenal number two. I think they've had a really strong start to the season. I think they're hungry. They have a really young team, and I think that Gabriel Jesus was a great signing for them. Then I have Tottenham number three. I'm just a massive fan of Antonio Conte. I think Son and Harry Kane, that link up is going to prove to be lethal as it always is. Then I have Liverpool number four, but I could see Chelsea getting number four, right? I don't think Liverpool's going to do that well. We're going to see the miss of Sadio Mane. We've already seen it already. Like, there's less fluidity in that team. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, especially to Thiago in that midfield. They lost Minamino. And I honestly, like, for Virgil van Dijk, I think he's really overrated. I mean, he's a great player, and he's one of the best center backs, but I don't. I think he's kind of lost his focus. I think he's kind of got more focused on keeping that tackle percentage high, so he's playing less risky, less aggressive. He's trying to play a little safe, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's great on offense, but defensively, I mean, he's a mismatch. We saw what Real Madrid did to those fullbacks in the Champions League final, and it was kind of the fullbacks with Andrew Robertson, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Van Dijk. I mean, it's their fault for conceding that goal. So yeah, I have Liverpool either fourth or fifth, and I have Chelsea fourth or fifth. Then I have United number six. I think United's going to do a lot better than last season. I still don't think they're quite at that top five level yet. I mean, Ronaldo's going to have a hard time starting. I think he'll probably start around 50% of the games, but I think United are really going to miss his presence if they don't play him.
I mean, I that's just comical, right? Without Ronaldo, Man U was a top three team, and I think without Ronaldo, they can still continue on this winning streak that they have. Um, I guess for my rankings, I'll go Man City, Tottenham, Arsenal, Man U, and then Chelsea, Liverpool six. I think they're in an honorable mention. They could make that late season jump, um, but obviously, Man City, I mean, a really good team. Arsenal, I think they still are a little unexperienced. Arteta obviously doing some amazing work, getting the club back to its glory. But I think, I mean, they still have to go through some growing pains. Next year is a different story, but Tottenham, especially with my son, um, doing great. He's very athletic, in the best shape of his career. Um, he can definitely pull off a surprise and maybe even win Premier League Player of the Year. And then Man U, like I said, without Ronaldo, they're a top three team that we've seen, and especially with Eric Ten Hag, who is very disciplined, right? He's not going to accept some complacency. He's not going to accept no egos. He's going to tell it how it is, and I mean that's showing, right? They beat Liverpool, and Liverpool is bad, but they're not horrible, right? They beat them for a reason. Um, yeah.
All right, I would go with Man City as number one because I just think when you look at the teams in the Premier League, they're just a step above everyone else. I would have said the same thing about Liverpool, but they've had a slightly slow start. So I'm going to go with Man City one, second place Tottenham, and then Liverpool as third place, and Arsenal as fourth place. Arsenal have had they've been the only Premier League team this season who've had a perfect start. They've won all their games. I mean, they're just looking really sharp so far. The new signings seem to get integrated really well into that team. They got Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus. Arteta, he's been there for a few years, but he seems to be getting more experience as manager. Uh, so that was Arsenal fourth place. Fifth place, I would go with United, and sixth place with Chelsea. I think Chelsea are going to have probably issues again. Uh, it's tough to predict because all these teams you look around and you're like, there's something positive you can say about each one of them, but there's got to be at least two that don't make it out into the top four. So if I'm looking at last season and I look at the mindset of the United locker room, I'm probably thinking United again, and Chelsea just because they've had a lot of good transfers. Tuchel has not been the manager who can integrate new players into his team very easily. Uh, he can do that with defensive players to some extent, but not with guys in the midfield or somebody like Sterling or some of the other signings they've been having, Aubameyang.
All right. I think that'll do it for our podcast today. Um, we hope you guys have a good day and come back next week. This was the Chid FC podcast. See ya.
See,